Welcome everybody, welcome to a new series of Cocktail Hour, Cocktail Time, with yours truly, Philip Jones, the Martini Whisperer. Welcome to Martini Whisperer HQ, and what I'm going to do as we move along the next few weeks is every week about this time is have a little chat with you about all sorts of things. Cocktail Hour, bars, insights, inspiration, and today it's all about what you need for your bar. So have a look down here, for example, and so we're going to work our way around all the things, the essentials you need for your home bar. And we'll get to this in time. But the first thing I want to say, of course, is we live in strange times and difficult times. So I dedicate sessions like this to all of you who are staying safe, doing the right thing and being at home, keeping your distance and doing your best to get through this. And I think the least we can do is have a decent drink. So this one's for you. Let's get started. Like any, Insta's fantastic, Facebook's fantastic, YouTube's fantastic, but there's nothing wrong with a collection of good old-fashioned books. And this actually turned up my doorstep courtesy of my birthday last week, which was wonderful. And this turned up how to eat cocktails around the world. And so I'll be working my way through this, and even had a request earlier today for someone around a gimlet, a basil gimlet. So I'll be doing little cocktail recipes on the way. So this is a beautiful, beautiful book. So you need your reference points, you need your inspirations, because even if you're doing a bit of gardening at home, I love this one, the Drop and Botanist. This has like recipes for like your own bitters and vermouths or things you can grow. So if you've got a bit of time on your hands, as some of us do, and you want to do some home gardening or on your veranda or in your backyard, has a really great breakdown on how you can use different botanicals or ingredients or grow them, and then make your own tinctures and things like that. So this is a really inspirational book. Another one worth knowing is a gentleman called Luke McCarthy, who's a great Australian commentator and writer about Australian spirits. He put this out last year, pretty sure, Australian Spirits Guide. And it's a great reference book on distillers from around Australia, little profiles of each of them, or many of them. It's a fast-growing feast. So as you know, if you go to my website, I update every couple of weeks the list of distillers. There's hundreds of reviews, interviews with the makers, and links back to their respective websites. So it's just grown and grown and grown, both in Australia, of course, all around the world. But this is a great guide and primer. And a big shout out to my friend David Box in Melbourne, who produced this fantastic Australian first book about Australian gin. So I had the privilege of helping him launch that in Parliament House here in Canberra last year, emceeing that event. And this is a fantastic guide about each of the many distillers around Australia, and it'll be updated again this year. So I'll be part of that project. But David Box Gin Tonica, check them out on the website. They've got a great range of Australian spirits. So you got your inspiration. So let me just take you through then some of the things you're going to need to make your life a better place. Now, you're going to need little accessories here. So I've accumulated these from around, these were given to me by some friends in California. They're as dangerous as they look. So I treat these with extra care and special occasion. These are all fun little things, not what I use them very often. Atlanta, Georgia. There was a big football game when I was in Atlanta, Georgia last, drinking too many big martinis, and that came along, so that had to come with me. Or, of course, a little bit of bling. You've got to love your martini bling. So, and then I've got a range of the copper, silver or gold and others. So essentially I kind of think, what sort of mood am I in? Where do I want to go? But you need your cocktail picks because in a practical sense, you need to spear your garnish, like so. And I'm not a huge fan, as you probably gathered, of those huge lemon rinds in a martini in particular. It's good to express the oils from the rind, but I prefer a bit more control over my drink. So when I have a martini, I just like to have lemon rind skewered by one of these, and then at some point I'll take it out, otherwise the cocktail will just taste like lemon, will just take over. So there's a bit of command and control involved with this. One key ingredient that's sounds a bit counterintuitive in a martini is orange bitters. It goes back to one of the original recipes about the martini, Martinis for example, and variations along the way. Only a few drops can make a huge difference. So there's a few different ranges. I like Regan's, both out of America, and also Fee Brothers, also out of America. And they come in a nice little dropper bottle, but if you want to get really fancy, you get yourself a little bitters bottle. and then just a couple of drops, like so. Just drop it in, usually when you're mixing, or just after you're mixing, and it makes incredible difference. Really just has aromatics, especially if it's citrus peel or some in the botanical gin, and just elevates it, but it won't take over your cocktail. So little bitters bottles makes you feel kind of professional and fancy when you're doing it. And when you go to a bar, for example, they'll do the kind of, over the shoulder routine. Moving along. So a range of cocktail mixes, and we can talk about different versions. Now, pro tip number 1, you'll notice he's got some ice in it and a bit cool already. I keep my regular one in the fridge at all times. We have arguments in the house about a bit more shelf space every day so often, but trust me, it's a sacred ground, because if you have a cold mixer from the get-go, it makes a huge difference to your martini. So, especially when it's hot or warm outside, starting point as cold as possibly can. So you have a few different mixes here, and these are all different sizes. For parties, probably, nice big ones. That holds a fair bit, clearly, or slightly smaller ones. But these are pretty standard mixing jugs. If you're interested, I can give you some links to places where you can buy them online near you. They're not super expensive, and they make a huge difference. You've got your cocktail shakers. Now there's 2. There's the Boston shaker and a cobbler shaker. And a cobbler, these are different shapes, but a cobbler is one of these ones, these metal ones, and they have 3 parts. This looks a bit fancy, but it always has 3 things. So the container, the strainer, and the lid. Obviously the easiest to use. This one's a bit more fancy. It's a George Jensen, kind of nice organic. I like showing up with that. But again, container, strainer, and lid, same deal. So a cobbler, and they all come, and you think of the standard kind of little miniature sizes, all same principle whatsoever. Doesn't really matter what size they come in, but they're built in. Or you have something called a Boston shaker, and that's when you see in bars, particularly where it's a glass as a metal container. So typically it fits together. You put your booze in this, your ice, you shake. We'll talk about shaking another time for another video. We'll come back to it a bit later. And they fit together, and you shake so. These make me nervous because, after you shake them, they tend to stick together. So the pro tip is, if it gets stuck, you just squeeze the metal bit and you use your way out. But we'll talk about that another time in more detail. So Boston shakers great. They usually come as a set. If you're scared about breaking your glass, they're pretty robust. You can actually cheat and get a smaller one and use it much the same and shake that way. But again, we'll talk about shaking techniques in another video. Moving along, you're going to need a pourer and a measure. Now, plenty at home, you can drink as much as you want, behave as much as you want, misbehave as much as you want. But you're going to need, for most cocktails, it's a science, like these books and recipes, they call for certain measurements. So the principles are much the same. Typically they come in 2 sizes. So here, for example, the big one, the top here, that's 30 mils or 1 ounce, and 15 mils or half an ounce, thereabouts, for the small one. This is just the same, it's just a different shape. It's designed by Japanese, and it's designed for a bit more elegant pouring. Principle's just the same. So you're going to want yourself a measure of some description. Talk about mixers. Strainers. Say, for example, you're just using your standard stirring. So again, you're using these when you're stirring a cocktail. These when you're shaking a cocktail. The ice is here. You're going to need 2 extra things. You're going to need a bar spoon, and you're going to need what the strainer here is actually called in business a hawthorn. And these are all prongs. So this sits, designed to sit just so. So when you're pouring the cocktail, it's an inbuilt strainer. So these have a built-in strainer, so you need a strainer if you're going to use one of these in a martini. So the colour doesn't really matter what colour you use, but here's a pro tip. If you like an espresso martini, and you want to shake it, but you want that really great crema, that beautiful cream on top, this is what you can do. You can get these come out. Yeah? See? Yeah, voila. It just pulls out. You can put it back together in, easy enough. You've got yourself a little spring here. You then, if your espresso martini mix with the ice that's in here, you put that inside, close it up, and shake. You've got yourself a little turbo. Trust me, it works. And then clean it off, put it back on, and you're sweet. So a hawthorn is good. And your bar spoon. Now, bar spoons come in different shapes and sizes, different colours, doesn't really matter. The principle is much the same. Let me show you a little technique though. So in your fancy barman, when you're stirring, and this is a bit of a practice in and of itself, what you want is obviously a nice, clear, fluid motion. But the trick is, just see I'm holding it. It's held between the third and fourth finger, hope you can see that. And the technique will stand sideways. You're not actually doing this in the glass. You're actually doing this. So you hold it like so. You can be fancy, don't worry about the pinky ring. You're not doing that. You're actually doing this. You're pulling it between your fingers. You put it on the outside, and I'm simply pulling back and forth, and that gives me that motion. So you can just practice at home on a straw or a pen or whatever you like to do until you get that motion, and you can be as cool for school, stirring away all day long. Fun fact, on the bottom here, this is also useful. So the bar spoon is good for getting garnishes out of various things. But this end, this flat end, you can use just the same. No problem. This is a variation on the theme. It's a bit old, this one. I've used this out. See how much copper I've used. But you notice on the end here, it's got flat. So that's for when you want to do a bit of muddling. So say you're making a mojito. You could get a muddle stick to grind up the mint and the oil and the sugars and things like that. Or you can use, say you had your ice and your rum and your mint. Same deal. Same tool. Or you can get yourself one of these. Same deal. So very, very simple. The other little gadget that's kind of handy is a tea strainer. Sometimes you see in bars they do a double strain. So these strainers are fine, but they can be a bit coarse. And we'll get to ice in a minute. So when they're pouring, it's called a double pour or double strain. And so they've got the cocktail, it's being strained by this thing here, but the fineness of the pour through this mesh will ensure you get no flakes of ice in your cocktail, especially in a martini if you want to do a shaken martini. So that's really, and it could be just a tea strainer, it doesn't have to be like a fancy bar tool. Talk about vermouth for a minute. So vermouth has lots of different properties, but the one thing you should know is once you open a bottle, a new bottle here for example, beautiful maiden eye vermouth, once this is opened it will deteriorate. It's not like a booze, like it's not gin or vodka. It will over time, because it's wine, a little bit of spirit to preserve it, herbs, botanicals. Once you open your bottle of Cinzano or maiden eye, Dolon, Lollycrap, dry vermouth, it will start to go stale, and you'll notice it if say after a month or two. So two things you can do. First thing is what I do, I keep a little bit in my fridge, so it's chilled, but clearly that's open to the elements. So what I also do is I have one of these wine bottom sealers. So I open the bottle of vermouth, keep it nice and take the air out of it, and that bottle, just like a bottle of wine that's being vacuum sealed, will keep pretty much forever. So every time you use it, top up your vermouth, seal it up, and that will last a long time. But if you can do nothing else, keep it in the fridge, that will extend its life quite a lot. Let me just check if we've got some customers here on the feed. How I do this, any questions? But we'll keep going. Cool. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Here we got, I can see myself, which is a bit trippy. Okay. So you've got your vermouth, sealing, garnish. Obviously, these are bar tools. Not complicated. You want your garnish, nice sharp knife, cutting board, lemon peel or an orange peel for your Negroni, things like that. Absolutely fine. Garnish. Subject for another time. There's a video on my YouTube channel about how I curate my olives and creating dirty martinis. This is in the fridge too, on my Gibsons, or onions for my Gibsons. This is a mix of 3 different types of Sicilian olives, both pitted and unpitted, brine, not oily brine, a bit of vermouth, touch of gin, and lemon peel, which I change frequently. So that's my little mother load right there for my cocktails. Then let's talk about ice. Now, we talked before about shaking ice or cocktails with ice, and you may have noticed I quite like the big cubes. Why? They're colder, They don't flake, because the last thing you want in your martini is flaking. So I recommend these things here, which are silicone molds. This is about 1 inch, 1.5 inch per, or almost 3 centimetres square. Should be too hard to find. So just look in the freezer, not very complicated, but they give you very nice square cubes. So in a shaker or in a mixer, these, when I'm stirring or I'm shaking, are not going to flake. And so they're going to cool down the cocktail much better. And if I shake them, they're not going to flake apart in all sorts of horrible parts to it. So that's when, if you can't have those and just have small ice and then you're going to do that, that's when a double strainer comes in handy, and you take out all those icy flakes, because that's not really what you're after. So ice is really key, so a silicone mold is terrific. And the final thing I just want to introduce you to today is types of glasses. Clearly, cocktail glasses, you might have a coupe, you might have an old sherry glass or whatever, and I'm a bit sport around here. So these, for example, this is your classic cocktail glass. This is a Spiegel or something. They're about 120ml kind of cocktail glass, pretty readily available. I prefer personally the standard cocktail shape. I find it's kind of nice and crisp on the palate. Again, I keep a couple in my fridge at all times, because again, if you're starting off with your ice, your gin in the freezer, your garnishes, your starting point nice and cool and frosty, you're well ahead of the game. These beautiful things, they're called Nicanora. The Nicanora glasses. They're great. They're popular in bars because if you look at it this way, they're smaller. They take up less room on the shelf in the fridge, but they actually hold the same amount, about 120 mils, or about 4 ounces in that. So they're a great go-to. You might get a bit fancy and go sort of mood you're in with a nice little vintage cocktail glass. Or finally, you might get one of these bad boys. Get yourself a vintage shot. Just before we started doing this, I actually reminded myself of the measurements. 11 ounces or 330 mils. Almost half a bottle of gin you can fit in this bad boy. This is a 1960s vintage cocktail glass, so God knows I knew how to party back in the day. Save that for a special occasion when all this nonsense is over. So there you are, the basics. Some inspiration, you need your cocktail picks, your orange bitters, a shaker, a mixing glass. You've got your strainer, your jigger, your bar spoon, probably a double strainer, something to keep your vermouth nice and fresh. Good silicone mold for your nice ice, garnish game, and a range of glasses to suit your mood. So these, I think, are the basics, and I hope that's been enjoyable for you. Now, I'll be online after this. We'll sign off, and you can just jump on Instagram or Facebook, and I'll take your questions. And look out for future episodes each week. I'm going to be doing a different version on this. You've got some ideas you want me to talk about, just let me know. And once a week, coming up to on Wednesdays, I'll be talking about a different spirit and a more conversational style in a short and formal review. So it's been great. Stay safe, be well, and I'll talk soon. Until then, next time. Cheers.